If you imagine a James Bond scenario and he's running around the laptop looking for files, looking for processes, that agent is then going to take that information back to the people that need to know.
It can tell you if there's 500 devices that have never been turned on, actually that's an opportunity to save money.
Who do I go to? What solution should I use? A lot of it is just next generation antivirus.
How secure are the security products, and are we actually keeping up to date to make sure that they're not inadvertently actually opening doors?
Security gives assurance. If you can give assurance to investors, customers, your business grows.
With the emergence of cloud computing, the likes of Microsoft, Amazon, and Google are now adding built-in security into their systems. So is our security still in our own hands, or in the hands of these vendors? And should we be afraid of this change, or embrace it?
Third parties have changed the game altogether, especially with the modern world. The modern world is so connected. And in terms of EDR and detection and response, it's about who's responsible for those third parties. Is it the third party themselves? Is it us as an organisation? Is it a combination? And it's really making sure we fully understand how we detect and respond to any situations.
When we talk about disruption from another vendor or a new piece of technology or a player like Microsoft, what we're referring to is the fact that now these have become a key player in this particular field when we talk about EDR and cybersecurity.
Slowly over time, Microsoft put more and more security into their operating system. And so while this fight about cloud was going on and this fight about who's the better antivirus, Windows started building a pretty credible security capability with something called Windows Defender, which has now gone on to become Windows ATP Defender.
Personally speaking, and from a Kaspersky perspective, we have already seen customers of ours move from Kaspersky to Microsoft and have now moved back to us. So what I think we're going to see is we're going to see more and more certain segments of the market moving to Microsoft. It's certainly on parts of their network, maybe just on the desktops and leave the servers with a third-party vendor. But I think we might start to see that natural progression back to cybersecurity vendors. It's only going to take one major vulnerability, which happens quite a lot with Microsoft security solutions, to hit the industry quite hard, and then you'll start to see that natural progression back to third-party vendors.
A good vendor will be honest with you. They will tell you the right things. They will say, we will take care of this, but the rest of it you have to take care of. And that open and honest conversation is really helpful. I don't think we'll ever get to a situation where the native cloud providers have sole control over all of the market. They might become a Google house or an AWS house for certain parts of the business and certain ways in which the business functions, but I feel they're always going to look at cybersecurity as we want the best of breeds. You can put EDR on pretty much anything you want to, but if a third party is looking after it with AWS, you can't throw monitoring at it because they'll just say, sorry, you can't do that, we look after it, or it's part of a bigger estate and they look after a whole load of other stuff that they can't give you access to.
Modern businesses understand now the importance of investing in their cybersecurity. However, many invest in the right tools but fail to configure them correctly, rendering them virtually useless. So, how do we get the best out of EDR?
The great thing with EDR and actually moving into SIEM, which correlates all that, is you learn a whole load more information, better data, and then you can go back and say this will help us with compliance and risk as well, because we can do not just this, but we can actually do these 4 or 5 other things that we're seeing now.
One of the most powerful lessons for me really is to consider that full end-to-end implication of an EDR solution. Often we're very good at mobilizing proofs of concept or proofs of value and kind of spinning up the technology and doing the implementations and then it's nearly like, okay, we've done that now, it's switched on. Actually, EDR is going to generate a lot of additional insights, yes, but additional overhead in some instances and additional effort further downstream.
When you are discussing the solution at the early stages, you have to to get people outside your IT and your security world on board with the need for the solution. You need to make them comfortable with the reason why that technology is in place, and so that you can be clear that you're there to help, you're there to protect, and that ultimately you're trying to protect the wealth creation or the product or services that that business produces.
EDR done well combines with data analytics, it combines with business landscape and gives you a big picture. So strategically you can help drive the business, especially from a technology standpoint.
Don't neglect updating your EDR on the regular basis that the vendor suggests you do it, because more features and more potential security issues based on data that they've received from their customers could save you from an actor that is using that same technique to try and get onto an endpoint.
What we're going to start seeing is more of an introduction of correlating the endpoint telemetry from an EDR solution alongside network telemetry from a network analysis tool, but into one native engine. So where the same vendor is across both areas, correlating that data together to provide a more complete vision of what's happening from a malicious or suspicious perspective across a network.
The future is good. The future of EDR is, I think, an important one because it does two things. The more deployments you have, the greater the data source, so the better telemetry you'll get, and it will become more effective over time. We just hope that it becomes more effective over time, faster than the bad guys, or at least as fast as the bad guys.
As with every tool, EDR has its place in the cybersecurity toolshed. With more education and further dialogue between vendors and users alike, our community will be able to reach a consensus on just how valuable this tool can be.